Baseball is nicknamed America's national pastime, and the game is connected to American culture in more ways than one. America also likes to brand itself as a land of opportunity and second chances, and there was a baseball player who took advantage of this and then some. Ron LeFlore, a former MLB All-Star and stolen base champ whose career began in a prison baseball league. This is one of the most unique athlete origin stories out there, and let's get right down to it. Ron LeFlore was born into an environment of drugs, crime, and poverty. As a product of this environment, Ron eventually got involved in said crime and dropped out of school at a young age. This lifestyle caught up to him in 1970, when he was arrested for armed robbery with a rifle at a local bar. At just 21 years old, Ron was looking at 5 to 15 years in a federal prison for this. And to pass the time, he joined a prison baseball league. As far as we could find, this is where he first started playing baseball. There's a blurb on Ron LeFlore's page on Saber that says he remembered playing his first real baseball game in left field for Jackson State Prison. Not in high school, there's no word on if he played in Little League. This appears to be the start of Ron LeFlore's baseball career, playing in a prison league. And if the Shawshank Redemption tells us anything about baseball, it's that the level of talent in prison ball isn't usually all that special. Look at this dude. Whose grandpa is this? But apparently, he looked good. How can we know this without any stats or analytics? Well, listen to this. The story supposedly goes like this. Some guy who was in jail with Ron contacted a friend of his who owned a bar in Detroit that some Detroit sports people would go to. He asked his friend to talk to Tigers manager Billy Martin about going to take a look at Ron LeFlore. If we know anything about Billy Martin, it's that he wasn't the most agreeable person in the world. This is a man who often got into fights with his own players and once beat up a traveling marshmallow salesman. So the fact that he agreed to go see Ron LeFlore is kind of a miracle. Billy Martin had to actually be Mr. Professional for the day he visited Ron. During the visit, Billy got Ron to arrange for a tryout at Tiger Stadium, and Ron made it. This story is now officially a cross between Willie Mays Hayes and Ricky Vaughn's backstories. He signed a contract with the Tigers to play in the minor leagues in the summer of 1973, meeting the conditions to get parole in the process. And under minor league manager Jim Leyland, yes, that Jim Leyland, he played alright.
We got a flash flood warning here.
And in August of 1974, he played his first big league game with the Tigers. Just over a year after being in jail with no baseball experience, Ron LeFlore was on the Detroit Tigers. He was okay in 59 games down the stretch in 74 before making the team out of spring training in 75, and eventually becoming the starting center fielder. A guy less than 2 years removed from prison was about to be a regular starter on a Major League Baseball team. This is not normal, and it's pretty inspiring. For the most part, he improved in his first full season, but his style of play was very typical of the 70s. Contact hitter, stole a lot of bases but also got caught a ton, that kind of guy. Well, in 1976, that was still his style of play, only he was really good at it. He came into 1976 and pretty much said,
"Oh, watch this."
In 1976, LeFlore stole 58 bases while only being caught 20 times, a plus 30 jump in successes from the year before. He also hit .316, improved his walk rate, which led to a .376 on-base percentage, and rocked an OPS plus of 128, meaning he was about 28% better than the average hitter around him. He even made the All-Star team, a crazy accomplishment for a guy with as little baseball experience as he had. Forgot to mention one more part about that. He started in the All-Star game and got a leadoff single. Wow. We have now made videos on this channel centered around two different 1976 Tigers All-Star starters known for being unique. Who saw that coming? To cap off his 1976 season, Ron LeFlore finished 23rd in AL MVP voting. He received points in the MVP voting for 3 of the next 4 seasons as well. An unreal turnaround for a guy given a second chance at life. And for the rest of his time in Detroit, he kept playing well. But 1978 ended up being a pretty special year. He led his league in singles, runs scored, and stolen bases, rocked a 4.1 WAR according to Baseball Reference, a 113 OPS plus, and at one point in the year was on a 27-game hitting streak. He became just the second Tiger ever to have multiple hitting streaks of 25 games or more. The first was Ty Cobb, a guy who got more Hall of Fame votes than Babe Ruth. Sounds like pretty good company, huh? During another strong season in 1979, the Tigers made a change at manager. Hall of Famer Sparky Anderson was hired, and he decided Ron wasn't the kind of guy he wanted in his clubhouse. See, things still weren't the best for Ron off the field. Some bad habits started to kick in, to the point where it was becoming the team's business, and they didn't want to put up with it anymore. The Tigers traded Ron LeFlore to an already loaded Montreal Expos team that won 95 games the year before, but had never been to the playoffs. Ron was brought in to try and change that, and in Montreal, he did something never done before in Major League history. He led the National League in stolen bases with 97, and this made him the first player ever to lead both the American and National League in steals. Go off. That year, the Expos and the Phillies were locked into a heated race down the stretch that came down to this: a 3-game series in Montreal between the two teams. If the Expos win 2 out of 3, there's a tie in the NL East. If they sweep, the Expos are going to the playoffs for the first time in team history. Will Ron LeFlore be able to take his base-stealing talents to the playoffs? No. The Phillies win 2 of 3. The Expos go home. Ron never plays for the team again. Once he hit free agency after the season, the Expos had no problem letting Ron walk. His drug problem was still just that, a problem. And the team didn't like the behavior he was exhibiting around the team's young core that ended up including multiple Hall of Famers. So Ron signed a multi-year deal with the Chicago White Sox, and their unbelievable uniforms. The shorts were before this though, so don't worry, Ron wouldn't have to cut up his legs stealing bases. But after 2 disappointing years in Chicago, Ron's Major League career came to an end. The third team was not the charm, and his persistent issues became the cause for his demise. But he still tried to stay in baseball for the years that followed. He went to umpire school, he played in a league designed for ex-big leaguers, think the Big 3 basketball league but for baseball and set in Florida, and he even became the manager for a couple independent baseball teams. But he was never able to get it back together. His life ended up taking a spiral that included devastating personal tragedy and reoccurring legal problems. One time he was even arrested outside of Tiger Stadium for not paying child support after going to the stadium's closing ceremony. And in a cruel twist of fate, he lost his leg to a disease brought on by a lifetime of smoking. A 2-time stolen base champ is now forced to use a prosthetic leg. He's given several really insightful quotes on his perspective, which he chalks up to his troublesome upbringing. I really needed guidance, and I didn't get that. How come I couldn't have gotten that guidance when I first came up? But I just didn't have the guidance that I should have had. I had no support from anybody. Just think if I had played baseball as a kid instead of running the streets. Just think if I had improved my baseball skills instead of going to prison. How good could I have been? Who knows? If I had gotten that guidance that I needed, if I had known what was going on in society, I could have had some Hall of Fame stats. Powerful words there. This illustrates a broader problem in baseball, related to the lack of true support and opportunity in poor areas and inner cities. The RBI program was founded to help counter this problem, and the Players Alliance has also been doing tremendous work of late with a goal of increasing black opportunity in baseball. A person's first exposure to baseball should not be in prison. In a sense, that makes his 9-year MLB career all the more impressive thanks to this remarkably unique path. But it shouldn't have been that way in the first place. Ron LeFlore is simultaneously a symbol of overcoming adversity and a lack of opportunity. His story is both one of inspiration and misfortune, and while we should appreciate his greatest accomplishments, baseball and society should learn from every lesson his story teaches.